Hello there, this is Swift, bringing you another game of Dawn of War 2 Retribution from Vulcan Pits, where we have Sphenomz, playing as this Blood Angels Elite Scheme, yeah that's the one, Blood Angels Elite Scheme Apothecary, or more sort of aptly a chaplain, I suppose. And then we have Ruthless at heart, playing as this Lictor Alpha, which is again, it's another elite scheme, but I forget the name of this one. It's spiky, and it's orange, and it's purple. So Vulcan Pits. This is, well, it's one of mine. And it's actually a reskin of an older map that I made that people liked, but didn't play because of the colour palette, and I'm not joking, that's genuinely why. People don't really like snow maps, just because of contrast, the way they can obscure icons, etc, etc. So I thought I'd settle for something a little more muted, let's say, in the volcanic approach. And I think I like it. I think it's worked. But this is an interesting matchup, certainly. The Lictor Alpha versus the Apothecary, which is... I mean, the Apothecary is obviously a potent hero when it comes to supporting his army, and the Lictor is kind of really well equipped for just denying that support with his flesh hook. Huge damage that he can do. And just generally a nice character sniper. We see Ruthless going pretty hard down the side here with the Hormagaunts, which is kind of expected, really. The Hormagaunts are such a nice capping unit, really able to handle pretty much anything that comes their way. And we notice that he's going for the double Termagant build, which seems to have come back into favour now after I think it was triple Hormagaunts and double Raveners, which were really just the meta for so long, and we can see that has changed significantly, I think, lately. I don't remember what it was exactly that happened, but people are now sticking to some more safer builds, and it does make sense. Tyranid Warriors, though, are the first tier 1.5 unit out, and Sphenomz seems to be prioritising his upgrades, as he's got a fully upgraded scout squad, because he's getting the elite training now. And even with shotguns on these scouts over here, he's really keen on countering that melee approach from Sphenomz. From Ruthless. And it's a really nice grenade there on the Warriors. Lucky to not lose a model. But these Hormagaunts, whilst they do a lot of damage, they're also particularly squishy. And the scouts, using their grenade, don't have enough energy for the shotgun blast. Interesting, we see Ruthless even buying Raveners at this point, and you know, the power income is pretty similar for both players. Obviously Ruthless now has less requisition, but he's going to be outnumbering Sphenomz pretty quickly when the Raveners hit the field. So let's see how Sphenomz responds, because he really needs to be investing in his power. And he is buying a node over here, but there's a lot of wreck that's kind of not really being used. Shotgun scouts in melee combat with the Hormagaunts. This is not something they want to stay with. He does go for a shotgun blast, and it does a bit of disruption, but ultimately he has to retreat, and I failed really to see what Sphenomz got out of that engagement. Here we go. Raveners turn up, and Apothecary just... Oh, yeeted into that blob of Tyranids, but he's got the... Oh my god, I forget. Purification Rites. Okay, interestingly, his approach is to go for more upgrades with a Sanguine Chainsword and the Purification Rites on the Apothecary. I do wonder if that's the right choice, given how well the Lictor can shut the Apothecary down, but it really matters on how he's handled as a hero, so if Sphenomz can do it well, then consider me corrected. But I don't feel like this is a wise engagement. Investment. I don't feel it's a wise investment. And the map is looking particularly red at the moment. Ruthless just kind of dismantling Sphenomz in front of him, because Sphenomz just... he doesn't have the presence. And he's only putting his power down on this side now, after getting his power bashed on the top side here. And you do have to wonder, why is he going so heavy on these upgrades when it's really not what he needs? At least in my opinion. Because as we can see, Ruthless is foregoing his upgrades, except the necessary ones, of course, like the Toxin Sacks. But these Hormagaunts have done so well alone, and there is a chance for them to be wiped with a grenade if it hits right. Not quite. He gets one model with it, but otherwise they will be safe.
The Tyranid infestation has reached,
and it's really those Hormagaunts that are the main capping power of Ruthless at this point, because he's rarely splitting the rest of his elements up, even the Lictor. It's only now that he won this engagement that he's split up to cap. And despite winning and splitting up, he is reasonably ready to take on these scouts. It's funny to see where he thinks they are, when in fact they're over here.
Attack. Scouts under attack.
Ruthless's blob is only going to get scarier as tier 2 comes into play, and Sphenomz is... he's close behind on resources, but in terms of timing, not as close. And at the moment, every second that he delays that tier 2 purchase is another second where potentially a Tyrant Guard can be dominant. And I know, a second isn't that much time, but, you know, it adds up. I like to think it adds up anyway. Tyranids, of course, are one of those armies where you're not immediately pressured to go tier 2 against them because of the lack of vehicle armor in their tier 2, but they are also one of those factions that does tend to snowball when given the chance. Once again, Sphenomz' power just being dismantled before his eyes, and these type of scouts are alright, but really they're not doing... I feel like they're not really matching the investment that went into them, because it's a lot of power spent on those scouts. It's, what, 25 for each sergeant, it's 15 I think for the shotguns, another 15 for the elite training, and I don't know if both of them have elite training, but that's, if they do, that's what, 55 power per squad. It's a large investment, especially considering the investment in the Apothecary, and he really doesn't have the map control to make it work. So we should probably be seeing a heal come down here, unless it's on cooldown. And there it is. Just uses it to escape, which makes sense. He only really needs the decap. He's not going to get a cap when the base is that close. And here we do see the Tyrant Guard, and Sphenomz actually stealthily in tier 2. I didn't even notice. And let's see how he responds. He looks like he's going for a Dreadnought, which makes sense given Ruthless's composition. He has really nothing in terms of AV. He has heavy melee and he has AV options on the warriors, but nothing concrete.
Scouts under attack.
But Sphenomz just pushed into a corner all of the time. And these scouts are potent, but really, really struggling to reach their potential. And I don't think that's because of Ruthless. I think that's because of Sphenomz. He's not capitalizing on his scouts. And it's you know, it's a difficult thing to do. They're very squishy, but if you're going to make that investment, you need to reap it back. And given the lack of warrior models that have been dying for Ruthless, he is absolutely swimming in power. He has nearly 200 power. Obviously, Wreck is looking a little different because he is bleeding a fair few Termagants and Hormagaunts, but, you know, he can get his power bashed and not really worry. Interesting, multi-melter upgrade for the Dreadnought, so he's really keen on taking out that Tyrant Guard at range, and it's not necessarily a terrible choice because it's not a hugely melee-oriented army from Ruthless. He can still take on the warriors in melee combat, and he probably wants to snipe these Venom Brood. I wonder why he went for that instead of the Assault Cannon though, and I have to imagine it's something to do with the Tyrant Guard. But here we see a bit of a standoff. The Apothecary's chainsword is... I haven't noticed this before, but it's on fire. I don't understand why it's on fire, but hey, looks cool. And a Plasma Devastator. I was about to say Plasma Dreadnought. A Plasma Devastator. Which, not a bad choice. You do get a lot of coverage in this area. And a nice grenade there on those warriors, but again, not taking any models. This has been pretty common in this game to not be taking warrior models. Plasma Devastator looking for the right angle. This is not the easiest bit to shoot at. You have a very narrow angle you can shoot with. But currently he looks like he might be doing more damage to his own Dreadnought if he's not careful. Wow, what was that? That multi-hitting attack there. He's in danger of losing those Raveners, but it's not going to happen. He's going to lose a Dreadnought instead. In a way, those Raveners were the perfect bait, because he got so distracted with trying to take them down that he completely lost sight of the amount of AV damage coming in from these Venom Brood, and it really cannot be sniffed at. You know, these guys, if you forget about them, well, they're dedicated anti-vehicle, and you're going to lose your Dread. So meanwhile, these scouts having been very sneaky and taken down this power node, and sure, they're making gains on this side, but in order to get this power farm briefly and decap this VP briefly, he traded a Dreadnought. And you have to wonder, was it necessary? I don't think it really was. And once again, another grenade goes out, and not really so successful this time either. Sphenomz just missing those opportunities with the grenade. And right now, this Plasma Devastator is... Oh, actually, looking at Ruthless's angle, it's actually set up well. But if he'd gone round here, wouldn't have been a problem. And I'm not sure why he didn't go around there, because he knows the Plasma Devastator is lurking. And obviously this is why the Lictor is now here.
The enemy is capturing one of our strategic points.
But we do see, interestingly, that Sphenomz is still playing the tactical cap game. Like, he has a lot of the middle of the map, so much as capping this wreck point here, which is pretty rare on this map, given just the proximity to the base. But he has been lacking a lot of the map for most of the game, and as you can see, he's playing catch-up when it comes to resources. Ruthless was 350 power. However, one thing that Sphenomz is not suffering from as much is Ruthless's horrible bleed. And it really is horrible. He has not had requisition for a long time. Like, sure, his wreck income, considering his pop, is not terrible. But he's constantly reinforcing and constantly bleeding. Although, mind you, losing Plasma Devastators is kind of nasty. Look at the damage that the Tyrant Guard takes from that Librarian, though. Just insane. And it is quite possible that the Tyrant Guard is actually going to be sacrificed at this point. Scouts, though, could go down whilst he's distracted. And they do. He notices just a little bit too late. And once again, Ruthless, a master of the bait and switch, as we've seen in this game. He distracts attention away from valuable targets, and in this case, sacrificing the Tyrant Guard, possibly not necessary, but when you consider the investment that went into those scouts and how much they have sort of been a part of Sphenomz's core playstyle, I think it was worth it. I think he probably spent more resources on those scouts than Ruthless will have spent on that Tyrant Guard. Possibly. I think that actually might have been his starting squad, so maybe not. But they cost almost the same power.
Requisition point under our control.
Right now we see Sphenomz drastically reduced with a very small but elite army, which can pretty much be summed up by what you can see on screen here. He does have some sneaky scouts going around, but the Lictor now has the deadly leap, and really all they are going to be is a nuisance. Him constantly going for this power farm here is really just an indication of how much he misses his own power.
Adding support structure.
And if Sphenomz wants to win this game, he's going to have to pull something incredible. Because look at Ruthless's force.
The Tyranid infestation has reached one of our strategic points.
Just the red blobs on the map.
Space Marines on the field.
Support structure complete.
And once again we see it. Sphenomz, before he purchased that whirlwind, absolutely swimming in requisition. Whereas Ruthless, swimming in power, but without the wreck to spend it. He is, of course, going tier 3 while Sphenomz buys the whirlwind, and you know, a whirlwind is a useful unit, but is it the unit that he needs in order to level the playing field? Well, I'll let the game be the judge of that. Personally, I'm not so sure. The Plasma Devastators, however, are actually doing reasonably well considering he's fighting a Lictor,
Space Marines on the field.
which usually you avoid the setup teams against. But Sphenomz seems to know what he's doing when it comes to them. And combined with the Librarian, it does make for an interesting playstyle where they can just set up immediately. What would be lovely is a nice big plasma shot in that blob. Very cathartic. But let's see how the whirlwind does come the next engagement. And I'm not confident. I mean, Ruthless is blobbing a fair bit, but you kind of can't help that with Tyranids. Looks like he's ground targeting with the Plasma Devastator. No, not so much anymore. Whirlwind does set up and he gets a lovely hit combined with the Plasma Cannon, but the Lictor is involved. Nice grenade, but he loses the scouts for it, and he does force a full retreat off on Ruthless, but how much time is he really winning with that? You know what? 30 seconds? Maybe less? He's got the Librarian sat out here, which, I mean, I can imagine all he's going to do is just use a force barrier to push him back into base and then run away. Plasma cannons aren't exactly the most fine weapons. But it is interesting to see that Sphenomz is not... He's not giving up, and he's not actually being outcapped nearly as much as you'd expect. It's almost as if Ruthless has kind of got tunnel vision. He wants to end the game quickly, so he's engaging Sphenomz directly, and that plasma cannon has been immovable this game. You know, normally people say that scouts are... A good scout play separates good Space Marine players. And whilst that is certainly true, to a degree, I'd say in this game, it's not the scout play that has made Sphenomz playstyle stand out. It's his use of this plasma cannon, which it's always been present in every engagement, and the combination with the whirlwind, it's such an unlikely pairing. Well, not an unlikely pairing, but an unlikely method to stay in the game. You know, these are typically very supportive units. And if he manages to keep them alive, well, it is going to be a testament to his strength as a player. However, this Librarian going down is not. He casts Quickening, but he's probably not going to be able to get out. No, he even uses Angels of Death at the last second. But it really only took one hit when he's got about 1 HP. And it's these small cases where Sphenomz just... He just throws away a unit slightly carelessly. And it's going to happen to the Whirlwind now, because here comes the Tier 3 Lictor. And he has nothing. Nothing to stop it. Closest thing are these shotgun scouts, and this is really one part of his killer playstyle. Oh, he stops pursuing. He's got to be careful with these tactical marines, but Sphenomz stops pursuing. Although having said that, he's dangerously close to losing the tax, but Sphenomz isn't paying attention. No, sorry. I'm saying Sphenomz stops pursuing. Ruthless stops pursuing. I think that's kind of a big win for Sphenomz there. That whirlwind is such a key part of his composition. This Librarian has been kind of odd. He's... Wait. Oh. I was going to say, that's kind of weird. He doesn't have any XP. I completely forgot. He just lost the Librarian about a minute before. I didn't even notice him repurchase this. I do have to wonder, is the Librarian so important? Sure, he's been useful, but, you know, investing that much into the Librarian... I don't know about that. What is interesting is this level 2 Lictor. He's only level 2. Sphenomz has done a very good job of controlling the Lictor Alpha from Ruthless, actually. And you know, a hero that really should be countering the other one. It's a curious reversal, really. Oh, though having said that, the Apothecary is down. He's level 4 though, and he does immediately revive with Laraman's Blessing. But looking at the VP pressure and the resources stacked against him, I don't know. Sphenomz is going to need a miracle. Ruthless is just... I mean, at this point, Ruthless is kind of mocking him, really. He's sat on 600 power. Obviously, this is not something that Sphenomz can see, but 600 power? I mean, that's a serious flex, and he loses the scouts again. Alright. Take notes. Take notes about this scout play. But also take notes about this Whirlwind Devastator combo. Because, you know, sure, this is a common sight in team games, but this is a pretty brave move for 1v1. So, if you're going to be playing some Space Marines in 1v1, give it a go. You know? Space Marine artillery is pretty solid. As Sphenomz is showing very aptly. But, as useful as it's been, there's not a whole lot that it can do to capture points. Whirlwinds can't cap, and Plasma Devastators are very poor cappers. And that's a weird floating... It's kind of awkwardly intersected with the geometry. And he doesn't need this. He doesn't need the blob cap. Sure, he needs to protect his units, but when he's splitting up the main bit of the force that is doing damage from the force that's capping, there's a serious error. Because these two Lictors going around, they can easily take out both the Plasma Devastator and the Whirlwind if given enough time. I mean, the Lictor Alpha could probably take out the Whirlwind given enough time. It really doesn't have much health.
Space Marines on the field.
And this is what, the 4th Scout Squad, I think. He's immediately getting the Sergeant, which is necessary, but what isn't necessary is the Scout purchase itself, because, well, losing 3 Scout Squads is a bit unfortunate. Just look at this wall of biomass as Ruthless decides, you know what, I'm going into the base. And I don't blame him. And even with the damage reduction offered by the base aura and the global Angels of Death, they're still tearing through everything. Down goes the Whirlwind. Such a heroic unit, but... Oh, that was the spawning animation. I don't remember that. Does he lose another Scout Squad? Oh, Sphenomz. Lost his 4th Scout Squad, bless him. This Plasma Devastator, only level 2. It's kind of a shame, really, and it does feel like this is going to be the end of it. He goes for the turret? Why is he going for the turret? Oh well. I guess we'll never know why he went for that turret at the end, but... Look at that. That angry Carnifex. Swiping away. With both the Lictors behind. I think there are some notes to be taken from this game. And I don't mean to... You know... what's that phrase? Kick a dead horse or something? I don't know. But Sphenomz, the scout play, it wasn't great. But his artillery was fantastic. And it's so rare to see in a 1v1 game, you know, Space Marine artillery particularly being so effective. And if other parts of his strategy were more watertight, you know, if he wasn't running around with single scout squads capping power nodes whilst losing dreadnoughts, I think Sphenomz had this in the bag. to be honest. There's no reason why he couldn't have taken Ruthless, but Ruthless at heart is, well, not called Ruthless for no reason, as we have discovered.